Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be looking at my Braids Cabal Minion deck for Commander. I haven't played Commander in a while, so decided to jump back into it by making this deck. And it just kind of goes to show like what Modern does to a person. But anyway, let's go ahead and just check it out here. When Braids got unbanned, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. One of the problems that like Black has is like you can't really hit artifacts, and Braids hits artifacts, so that's really nice. You just need to be able to pay for the sacking on your turn, and the deck is pretty annoying. And yeah, I mean you could spend like $5 and make basically any deck like a CEDH level deck, right? But this is just from cards that I had. But if you guys have any suggestions, you know, I don't really like using proxies that much, but you know, if you guys have suggestions that aren't proxies, that would be pretty cool. So obviously Braids is at the beginning of each player's upkeep, the player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. So creature, land, and artifact destruction. So pretty much all of our stuff is rather kind of like helping this plan, or the other sub theme is like discarding, so it's kind of like a discard control deck as well, or it's sack fodder. So for the sacking stuff, I try to get creatures that when they die they make another thing to sack on your next turn. So Sage makes a 1/1, Freebooter makes an artifact token, treasure token. This guy, you can return it back to the field when you pay 2. Skeleton, also pay 3, put it back in your hand, and you can play it again, or you can discard it to something. Shambling Gas makes a artifact. Fatal Push is really good in this deck because you're going to be sacrificing a lot of stuff and be able to get the Revolt trigger. Soul Ring is, you know, it's okay magic card, I guess. Dark Ritual is really good. Blood Pet just ramps. Quest for an Milestone. Whenever an opponent discards a card, put a quest counter on it, and then if it has, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if they have no cards in hand, it deals, and it has 2 or more quest counters on it, that player loses 5 life. So the thing about this is that it says whenever an opponent discards a card, so if you play like a Virus Beetle or something, that's 3 quest counters because that's 3 opponents, right? So it's gonna have 3 like right off the bat. You have like a mass discard effect, so it's pretty good. Warlock class is just like more pinging to deal damage and stuff like that, and it also has another effect where when it comes level 2, you look at the top 3, put 1 in your hand. Level 3 is like, I guess it's just a mana sinker late in the game. I don't know if it's really like that relevant for this deck. Unearth, it just goes and gets basically any monster from the deck and put it back into play. Shrinking Affliction, so obviously going with the discard theme. Rumors makes everybody discard except you. Infernal Grasp is just removal. Feed the Swarm goes in every black deck. Snail here is they exile a card out of their hand, which is pretty good, instead of like discarding. This guy, when he dies, he comes back. He's okay, he's not great, but Deadly Dispute makes a treasure token. This guy's really, really good. When he dies, he makes 2 more dudes, so that's pretty nice. Virus Beetle makes everybody discard. It's also an artifact and a creature, so you can, I mean, not that that really matters, you can sack it to Braids either way. Cast Down, it's okay. Bandit's Talent is insane. It's a good mana sinker, and it gets a lot of value over time. It also does damage when they have, depending how many cards they have. Smother, just another removal spell. I mean, you can play better ones, this is what I have on hand. Sign in Blood, it's okay. He keeps coming back from the grave. Charcoal Diamond which is getting power crept pretty soon by some of the newer cards that are coming out in the Spider-Man set. Demonic Council. This card's, I mean, there's better tutors, right? But like Demonic Tutor and all that, but you know, this card's pretty insane, I would say. I mean, we have all the card types, you know, land, creature, instant sorcery, so. And with Braids, it's pretty easy to get all 4 in the grave. Walk the Plank, just another removal spell. Probably gonna swap this with like a mass sack spell. Edict here is insane, makes everybody sack something, except you. Blood Gas just keeps coming back. A Lively Dirge, you know, get 2 things out of your grave. You can also put any card in the grave that you need. Marauder makes everybody sack a non-token creature. Arcane Signet, yeah, it goes in every deck. Smallpox is disgusting. Blood Artist, you know, this card just can win the game by itself if it's just not dealt with. I had a game where people kept like killing all like my Braids and stuff, and I just had my Blood Artist out, and they like kind of left me alone for a little bit and kept fighting each other, and then they're like, man, we're losing a lot of life, and I went from like 10 life all the way up to like 48 or something, so it was pretty funny. This guy, he makes everybody discard when he enters, which is relevant for another card that we have in the deck, like you discarding. I'll get to that in a minute. This card I'm trying out, I don't know if it's going to be that good, as Delirium. Basically, like at the beginning of your end step, each opponent may sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card, and then if he deals damage equals his power to each opponent who didn't sack a permanent or discard a card that way. So the point of this is that like at a certain point in the game, like, you know, maybe mid-game, they're going to start being like, well, I'll just start like paying the life or whatever, and that starts to add up with like the rest of the deck. Liliana has to be a foil one, cannot be any other one. Dave is he's just mainly just here for this, like the shock effect, but you can, if someone has too many cards, you can just make them discard one. This card's pretty good. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, make a dude. So it also has ward pay 3 life, which is interesting. Desolation is pretty good because we're like our deck is pretty like mana efficient. Like we just get like a couple things out, and then Braid just keeps like, you know, the board clear. You know, so at the end of each turn, each player tap the land for mana. During that turn, sacks the land. So pretty much like your opponents are gonna be fighting on low resources anyway, and this kind of keeps taking resources away from them. Ensnaring Bridge is still kind of pricey, but it's a great card for the deck because you're pretty much not gonna have cards in your hand, like maybe like 1 or 2. So Oppression, that's all that needs to be said about that. Bantu's Last Reckoning, you know, it's a board wipe where your lands are pretty much stunned after you play it, but it's kind of worth it sometimes. So like if people are just getting so far ahead, you just play this, and then people take a little bit to set up anyway, for the most part. Like might take them 1 to 2 turns to get set up again. So Playcrafter pretty much does what the other zombie does, but this one is like if they can't, right, or if they can't sack a creature, planeswalker, they discard a card. So it's a little bit better. Power Stone, it's okay. It's not great. Deluge, it's insane. It gets around, you know, indestructible and stuff like that, so it's pretty good. Opportunist here is he just draws cards. This guy also just draws cards when something dies. Commander Spear, yeah, it's okay. Blood Pact. One thing is like we do run like out of resources pretty fast, so we have to play a bunch of draw stuff, cards that draw cards and stuff. So this also draws us cards. Whenever an opponent discards a card, deals 2 damage to them. Grief. Yeah, it just, I don't know. I was just like, I have like 4 of these, so I just put it in. The card is pretty disgusting in Modern, so I was like, oh, I'll just play it in this deck. You can cast it for free too, you know, if you're playing against like a blue player, and then you can drop something. Grim Servant, when he enters, you know, he pretty much tutors something depending on your devotion to black. Alright, then we're getting to the other win cons of the deck. So, this card, they at the beginning of each player's turn, they may pay 2 life. If they don't, they return a permanent to their hand. So, they're not really going to have a whole lot to return to their hand, or so they're most likely just going to pay the 2 life so they can keep their stuff on the board. Diabolic Tutor is pretty bad, but you know, it's whatever. Corpse Trader, so pretty much I think this card in this deck is pretty decent because you're gonna have like so many resources to kind of expend anyway. So like you just sack your creatures and then look at people's hands and take like board wipes or like artifact removal or whatever. Or maybe there's a creature that gets them a lot of value, so I don't know. We'll try it out. Creeping Dread. Beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card. And then if it shares a card type with you, they lose 3 life. So, pretty good. Soren, he's just really good in this deck because he's card advantage, and he also makes a dude. And then if he gets high enough, or a lot of loyalty, you can start like dealing a lot of damage. Leyline of Void for graveyard decks. Extinction Event exiles creatures depending on their mana value. So whichever one you pick, like 0 or odd. So, or sorry, even or odd. I'm not awake right now. Smokestack is disgusting. It's pretty much like Braids, but like you keep getting counters over time, and then people have to keep sacrificing like that many counters that are on it. So it is at the beginning of your upkeep. So you play it, then your next turn you put 1, you sack something, and then next person sacks 1 thing. I've seen decks where what they'll do is they'll play this, and then upkeep, put a counter on it, and then at the end of their turn, they add more counters to it, like proliferate or whatever. And so that way everybody has to sack like 5 permanents or something. That's pretty funny. Might make a deck like that sometime. Gray Merch it. I don't like this card because like it goes in every black deck, and yeah, I don't know. But it's just so good, it's like you have to play it. Eon Hub. I don't know if this should stay in or be taken out. The thing is like I said, the deck is so like mana efficient that like you don't really play a whole lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Like a lot of your stuff just resolves on the board. So like you want to make sure people can't like respond to you when it gets to their turn. So having them skip like their upkeep steps, like, you know, they're just gonna be kind of sitting there like, oh well, and then they take the damage from like affliction or something. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll take it out. And then this is the last card, and then I have pretty much a bunch of swamps and then like a castle in here somewhere. Oh, it's in there somewhere, but this card is kind of just does everything, and its ultimate wins you the game pretty much. So yeah, so that's my deck right now. I would say this is like bracket level 3-ish, maybe 4 right now. Deck's not fun to play against at all. But another card I was thinking about playing was this. and but it's 8 mana, so I was like, well, because this card is just insane in this deck. You're just like, well, you guys can't do anything, can't draw cards, and you have to keep sacking all your stuff, and then you pretty much just win the game off of this. But yeah, that's all.